right, greetings, beautiful people. I'm just waiting for a single student question. Um, it's because this is a strange platform for us. I don't know how to help you because I can't read your minds. I can't read your faces. I don't know what questions you have, what struggles you're having. So I'm just going to wait for some questions. Um, Hopefully some will come. Um, yeah, just let me know what questions you have. Feel free to type it in the chat. It can be something specific, like I don't understand this question from USA Test Prep. Can you work some examples that are like that? It can be, I'm not sure what we have to turn in. Can you talk about what our grades are going to be made of? How do I get into USA Test Prep? But unless I have questions, I don't know how to help you. Just waiting for a question. All right, I see we've got some viewers. I'm just waiting for a question so I know how to help you. On Tuesday, when I planned the YouTube session, I had a sense because some people had sent me some emails from before about what their questions would be. One of the questions I got was, what patterns of error are you seeing in our Unit 1 assessments on USA Test Prep? So I'm just waiting for some questions. Of course, as you know, from 9:30 in the morning, Monday through Friday, all the way to 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday, I'm available via Schoology to either conference or answer emails. Very hopeful to help you. Just got to have some questions going on. Would you guys like me to work some problems? Talk about how your grade's going to be made? I just need a single question. I need some learners. Otherwise, I will sit here. Unlike the loach, no matter what question you ask, I will not look at you with reproach. But you have to ask questions. Because we don't meet in person, because we don't go to a brick and mortar schoolhouse, I can't read your body language. I can't read your faces. I can't look at your daily work to know where your gaps are, where your questions are. So you have to ask them. But I'm here for you whenever you decide to. Okay, awesome. Let's talk about that. A binomial is going to be multiplied in the way that monomials are. So let's take a look at. I can't do an exact problem, but I can do similar problems. Okay. All right. So okay. Got our single question. Awesome sauce. All right, here we go. Okay, so you wanted to know about 4x plus 7 times 2x minus 8. Now, what makes this a binomial is that, so this is a binomial because it has 1, 2 terms, and bi is 2. And this is a binomial because it has 1 term, and this is a second term. And we say that this is multiplying binomials because we're going to take 2 of these or more. You could have more if you wanted x plus 3. And you're just going to multiply these things with 2 terms. Let's first start with talking about a monomial times a binomial. So instead of 2x minus 8, let's say we have 3x, 3x, and instead of minus 8, let's use a slightly smaller number. Let's say, that's a little bit glary right there, isn't it? Okay. Let's say we have 3x minus, let's say 2. And instead of a binomial right here, 4x plus 7, let's just think if we had the number 7, okay? And let's just think we're using the distributive property, okay? Go ahead and, let me put this back a little bit. Go ahead and see if you can do this on your own. Multiply 7 times 3x minus 2 and see what you get. All right, and we've been doing this for a long time, right, for years. 3x times 7, we're going to always multiply the constant times the coefficient first. 3 times 7 is 21. And then we're going to have the x, because 7 times 3x is 21x. Then, after we do 21x, we're going to next multiply this 7 times a negative 2. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum. Why are you frozen? I'm not frozen, but my thingy is. Uh-oh, wake up. There we go. Let's see if that'll work. Technology problems. Okay, let's go over here. Camera USB device is disconnected. Save, reconnect. Please reconnect. Yay! All right. Technology is our friend. There we go. Okay. So we've done 7 times 3x, we've got 21x. Then we've got 7 times negative 2, and that gives us a negative 14. Now we can't combine 21x with negative 14 because this is a constant and this is a variable term, so we would be done. All right. Now, let's imagine, though, that instead of just a monomial, which means one term, we have another term, this time with a variable. We're going to do the same thing, but instead of multiplying 7 times 3x and 7 times negative 2, we're also going to multiply whatever number we have here. Let's do 4x. And let's do, I think, Kevin, your number was a positive. Oh, look, I almost cheated. Let's do 5, because we all know our 5's times table. 5x, and you have a positive 7. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, so this one we already did, right? We said 7 times 3x, we said was 21x, and 7 times negative 2. A positive times a negative is a negative, so that's negative 14. But we also have to multiply this by every term over here. So this 5x goes to the 3x. And what you're going to do when you have a constant number in front of the variable, that's called a coefficient. So we have one coefficient times another coefficient, 5 times 3. And that's a positive 5 times a positive 3, so that's a 15. And then x times x, we know that x times x is x times x, but we would also write that as just x squared, right? Okay, so I'm going to have my 15x squared, but I also have to multiply my 5x by a negative 2. So again, I'm going to multiply my number times my number. I first have to look at the sign. This is a positive 5 times a negative 2. Positive times negative is going to be negative. 5 times 2 is 10. And then I have this x times x. Now this is a positive 21x, right? Because positive 7 times positive 3 is a positive. And now you can see how we have two binomials. We end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. What's cool, though, is our next step is to combine like terms. So x squared, I don't see anything else that has an x squared. Now I see an x and an x, but they're not like terms with x squared. So this one I'm just going to bring down. 15x squared, done. I don't see another constant by itself. Like here's a number, but it has a variable. A number, but it has a variable. So this is a coefficient, a coefficient, a coefficient. This is the only constant. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that down. And now I can combine this linear term, just x, and this linear term, just x. Negative 10 plus 21 would be a positive 11x. And that's my final answer. And for those of you who are wondering about this, the other cool thing is if you have answer choices, like let's say you're still struggling with this. We learned about the FOIL method. There's lots of different ways that you can multiply a binomial. But the cool thing is this is a world of multiple choice tests. So if you understand that what you're trying to do is find out what this equals, right? You're just trying to find out what this equals. So what you're trying to figure out is which of your multiple choice answers would equal this. And what's great about equivalent expressions, and you started to learn about equivalent expressions in 6th grade, what's great is that if this really equals this, if Miss Wise hasn't made a mistake, if you haven't made a mistake, if the test makers haven't made a mistake, then if I substitute any number I want, a 1, a 2, a 0, a 3, Miss Wise's favorite number is 7. If I substitute a 7 in for x, here and here I would get the same number. So let's say, for example, I wanted to substitute 1. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 7 times 3 times 1 is 3 minus 2 And I've got, I've got 12 times 3 minus 2, which is 1. So that equals 12. Here I would have 15 times 1 squared. 1 squared is obviously 1. So I would have 15 plus 11 minus 14. I hope that's 12. Let's check it out. If not, Miss Wise has made a terrible mistake. And that's okay, though, because mistakes mean we're learning. And it also means, math is a place where we get nervous, especially when the whole world can watch us on YouTube. Oh, my God, yay! It's 12. I feel so smart. Okay, so the short answer is I hope everyone knows how to multiply binomials. But what's more important is that you understand that this is equal to this in the box. And you can find any way to figure out which one is equal. Let me know if you want to see another example like that, because I'll be happy to show you another example and do it, or a couple of them, and do them faster if you think that will help you. All right, let's see. Next question. Will the DLD quizzes be added as replacement test grades like the USA test prep ones? No. Right now, the Bartow County policy, and I think it's one that's going to stay in place for the rest of the year, and things have evolved so often that sometimes my answers on things have had to change because we just couldn't prepare for this or anticipate it. Right now, those quizzes are for you to practice your skill level with the new material that we taught during the distance learning. Your grades, we would like both the Bartow County leadership, the CAS leadership, probably your families, we would like to make your grades based as much as we can on the things that you did while you were in a brick and mortar school. So we finished Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3A. We finished those all while we were in school. And so we want to give you a chance to review those things and to get your grade as high as possible for those items. In part because Unit 2 is going to be essential in geometry, and Unit 3A is very essential in Algebra 2. And we want to make sure that those skills that you're going to need for your next adventures in mathematics at CAS High, you have a really solid foundation. However, we do want to give you a chance to see how you're doing with the new material, which is solving quadratics. You can solve by factoring, you can solve by taking the square root, you can solve by graphing, and you can solve by the quadratic formula. You can also solve by something called completing the square, which we haven't taught, but so there's numerous methods to solve a quadratic equation. And so here's what we're going to do. USA Test Preps 1, 2, and 3A will all replace your low. If your test scores are lower from before in the term, they'll replace those grades to help your grade go up. The only other grade that we're going to give, and it's an optional grade, is for 3B, which is the material we taught over DLD. So it's going to be a USA Test Prep assignment. You can practice for it by looking at the quizzes. And then one of my next YouTube videos, I'll say, let's talk about those quizzes, because the quizzes are stylized very much like the USA Test Prep. We can work through the quiz problems that people missed, and then you'll use that and the notes you took at the tail end of March to then take a USA Test Prep 3B. And if that score on that 3B assignment is higher than your average, we'll add that in. If it's not higher, then we'll mark you exempt. Okay. The quizzes are too short, too brief, and a little bit too easy to stand in as a test grade. Yes, you can't see the whole whiteboard. Can you see it now? I hope you can. Hard to go all the way up. All right. All right. Any other mathematical questions? Do y'all want to see more binomials? Y'all want to talk about the Unit 2 USA Test Prep? What y'all want to talk about? Otherwise, can go back to playing Animal Crossing for your enjoyment. Animal Crossing. Okay, I am going to go in about 7 minutes unless you have other questions. Yay, I'm glad about the whiteboard. Let me check Schoology real quick, see if they've got a question for me. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Okay, someone was asking what were because I guess because on Tuesday I talked about the most missed problems on the Unit 1. The most missed problems on Unit 2's USA Test Prep was getting the equation of a line from a graph or the equation of a line from a table. We all know that a line, let's see. We all know that a line is, why is my thing not working again? Okay. There's my hand. Okay. We all know that a line is written as y equals mx plus b. Right. We've been learning that for years. And we know that this is, we call it slope. We call it rate of change. The fancy way of writing it in math is this triangle means delta, delta x, or change in x. Okay. So a line is about how x changes. Does x get higher and higher and higher? In that case, it would be a positive slope. Does x get more and more negative? In that case, it would be a negative slope, things like that. And then we all know that this right here is our y-intercept, okay? So when we're looking at a graph, for example, the first thing that we're going to be interested in, let's say we have a line right there that crosses through this point, okay? We're going to be interested when we look at this graph of a line in two things. One, where does it start? Okay, we're going to write its starting point as x comma y, right? Always our x will be 0, and our y will be some number. This is clearly a positive number. We can make it whatever we want, right? Let's say it's a 2, okay? So now we know that this is not just y equals mx plus b, it's y equals some number m, we don't know what m is yet, it's some x, some number x plus, in this case, we said it was going to be 2. And then we're going to find another point on our line. It could be this point, it could be this point, it could be this point. We can choose any point we want. And in 6th grade, 7th grade, and certainly 8th grade, we learned something about a triangle. And we can make a triangle going from, like, say, this point to another point on the graph. And again, you could choose, there's infinitely many points on this line, right? And I can just choose any one. I'm going to just choose this one because, you know, it looks beautiful. And then I would say, oh, this is 1, 2 up. So that makes my y-intercept 2. But this is 1, 2 to the right. So now I know my slope is, now I went down 2, right? 1, 2, and then I went left 2, 1, 2. So that's a negative 2. Is this ringing a bell from middle school? And then I would say my slope is negative 1x plus 2, or I would simplify it as negative x plus 2. Do y'all remember? I hope y'all remember making those triangles in middle school, where you would see by looking at the graph and using that triangle, whether you had a positive slope or a negative slope. Probably you talked about in middle school, if it was like going down the mountain from left to right, that was negative. If it was going up, it was going to be positive. So those are the first two things I would look at. If I'm looking at a graph and I'm trying to match it to an equation, because again, we're in a world of multiple choice. They're going to give us things like this. They might say y equals 2x plus 2, y equals negative 2x plus 2, y equals x plus 2, y equals negative x plus 2. So as soon as I see that this is going down from left to right, also called decreasing, I know that it can't be C, because that's a positive slope. And I know that it can't be A, because that's a positive slope. And now I have a 50-50 chance of guessing, or not guessing, educatedly doing process of elimination to figure out that I need a negative slope. And then again, you're just going to find out the change in y over the change in x. That's slope formula, right? So here we went down 2 in y, and then we went right 2. Or you could have drawn a triangle like this. But I think most of your teachers in middle school would teach you to read your graph from left to right. Okay. I think maybe half of us are good at finding an equation from a graph, but very few of us were good at finding an equation from a table. Let's say this is x, this is y. We'll have x is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll do 0, 7, 14, 21. I bet you all can guess, right, what this number will be. We notice that this is going up, positive 7, add 7, add 7. So this is going to be a 28. What we notice here is that the change in y is 7 each time. Okay, so that's our slope. Y equals 7x. And then we got to figure out what our b is. And again, think about what a b means. It means the y-intercept. So if we have a graph, the y-intercept is always on this line. What is x always here? X is always 0, right? So then we look back at the graph, the table, and we're like, okay, where is x 0? Oh, it's 0 right here. And if x is 0 right here, all I need to do for my b is find out what is y when x is 0. That's another way of saying a y-intercept. So then my equation is y equals 7x plus 0. Of course, mathematicians are too lazy to write that 0. They'll just do y equals 7x. This gave people trouble. I think we had like 23% of the students get this right. And that's all classes, including honors. So let's do one more example of that. So again, I'm going to have my x and my y. Let's say I have a negative 1, and that is 2. And then I'm going to go up to 0, and that's 4. When x is 1, y is 6. When x is 2, y is 8. When x is 3, y is going to be, probably we're all thinking of it already, 10. Okay? And again, when we're talking about lines, we're interested in two things and only two things. What is our rate of change? How is y changing in relationship to x? Okay? We're also interested in b. Now, on a graph, this is the point on this line. And m is like the little triangle we would make, where this is the change in y over the change in x. Okay? But in a table, okay, m is always the number that gets added or subtracted to y each time. And on a table, our b is always this. When x is 0, what's y? Okay? So me personally, I'm going to look for my b first, because that's the easiest one to find. B is always going to be the point of the function of the line where this number is 0. So we look on this column here, x is 0. What's b? What's y-intercept? It's 4. So now we know we're looking at our multiple answer choices for something that says y equals some slope times x plus 4. And that should help us narrow down at least, and get rid of at least one, probably two. The next thing we're going to look at is the rate of change. How these y's are changing in relationship to these x's. So this is changing. You'll notice this is 1 each time, right? So again, we're going to have, we know m equals the change in x over the change in y. So how are the x's changing? They're going up 1 each time, right? Did I say change in x over, oh my Lord, have mercy. And this is a matter of public record now. It's always rise over run, right? So the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so our change in y is add 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. What's our change in x? Add 1, add 1, add 1. Of course, that simplifies to 2. And then we're just going to have y equals 2x plus 4. I think on the USA test prep, you almost don't even have to look at the x. A lot of USA test prep examples have this naturally just going up by 1, the x's going up by 1. And so you really only have to think about the change in y, okay? What's happening in this second column? Woo. And there was, I think, 2 questions that said, what's the equation from a graph? And 2 questions like that last table where it said, what is the equation from the table? And so that should help your grade go up, at least the letter grade, if that's making any more sense for you. Okay. I'll stay unless, I'm going to go in about 4 minutes unless somebody has a question for me. I'll check Schoology again. Can you guys hear my little pug snoring? Okay, thank you guys for being with me for my second ever YouTube live stream. Um, it makes me, I think teaching is always a little bit anxious and anxiety causing a little bit, especially if you're kind of introverted. Um, but definitely being on a live stream. Like I'm playing back some of the things that I said and I'm like, oh no, that's forever out there. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for asking questions. I appreciate you. One thing I want to leave you with, and I know, man of the hour, you're very interested in bonus points. So, and you can tell all your peeps this. Um, if you were with me at the beginning of the live stream, you know that I play Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I've been playing that since it was on GameCube. Okay. And I want to leave you with a problem that is part of discrete mathematics and probability, and something you'll do if you take AMDM, looking at the potential outcomes for kind of almost like predicting the future. So I wanted two particular villagers. I wanted to have an island where I had cats and I had mice, because I wanted a village where everyone was having to get along. On this village, because there are only, you had to get a girl mouse and you had to get a boy mouse. You have to get a girl and a boy at the start of the game. And there was only one girl cat villager, and there were no girl mice villagers. And there were 3 boy mice villagers that I could possibly get. But there were 24 total girls that you could have, and 53 total boys that you could have. So out of all these 24 girls, I only wanted one particular girl cat. And out of these 53 possible boy starter animals in the game, I only wanted 3 mice. Okay, so that meant that out of all these possible combinations of 24 girls and 53 boys, there was only a total of 1 times 3 combinations that I would have said, okay, I'm willing to take this. So I actually, over spring break, restarted my Animal Crossing's New Horizon game over and over and over and over again so that I could get a mouse and a cat and watch how 2 enemies could get along. Because I think that's something that as a country we have some struggles with, getting over our differences. So I kind of wanted to see how cat and mice would get along on my village. So here's what I'm going to offer to you. I will give a letter grade bonus to your lowest quiz score to whoever can guess how many times I had to restart the game before I got my girl cat villager and one of these 3 mice. Could have been 1 time, 3 times, 7, 700, 1,000,000. Whoever gets the closest, and you don't have to be under the number. Let's say someone thinks it's 9 and it is actually 10. They're still in the running because they're only 1 away from the actual number. So whoever guesses, and I'll post this tomorrow because it's kind of getting late in the afternoon. I'll post this little adventure on Schoology tomorrow, and I'll leave the guessing open for a week. And whoever gets the closest of all 3 of my classes will get a letter grade bump up on their lowest quiz score. Just think about it. Part of it is luck, but I'd like to see you guys see if you could think, how many times would someone have to restart this game to get 3 possible combinations out of all these combinations. You guys have a great day. Stay safe. I'm thinking about you. I hope you all do well, and I hope we work hard to make sure that if we want an A, we get an A. If we want a B, we get a B. And definitely, nobody wants to fail, right? So let's make sure that we do all we can to get the grades we want. All right. See you guys on Tuesday, and I'll talk to you on Schoology. Bye-bye.